Happy Wednesday, Georgian Bay. Welcome to this week's episode of The Scoop, your backstage pass to the people, stories, and conversations shaping our community. I'm Nadia, Hovan, and I'm so excited to introduce the three incredible guests we have lined up for you today. But first, let's say hello to my fabulous co-hosts, Janene and Katerina from Janene's Couch.
Hello!
Yes,
Welcome!
right. We've been hearing so much about Janene's onesies that we figured we should come to her house and see what they're all about.
And it's so cute.
I mean, it's only natural. It's only natural. This should happen.
But you did catch us right in the middle of a movie. So I have a random question for you, ladies.
Yeah.
If a camera were to follow you around for like an entire day, what genre would your life be? Like reality television, a rom-com, a horror movie?
I mean, I wish mine was like a rom-com or going the other end of the spectrum, like John Wick or The Matrix.
Oh.
So questionable because some people think we live in The Matrix, but I just love the action, the combat. I do like stunt choreography as well, and I do martial arts, so I love watching those films. And like the darkness, and I love the like dark, moody atmosphere of those films. So
You're such a bright and bubbly personality. It's
and
like...
that's why I love it, you know, because a day-to-day life, my day-to-day is always like on such a high and positive note. So sometimes I love that like nightlife, that Tokyo-esque.
So you want to be taking out mercenaries and stuff.
A little bit, yeah.
It makes me kind of wonder, is it that this is like a dual personality?
Maybe I am a secret agent. Who knows? Stick around to find out. What?
Katerina
Kova.
Kova.
Yeah. What are you doing, Anastasia? Yeah.
Just having a girls'
That
night with my
good.
girls. Where am I?
I will be reality. Just what you see is what you get. Okay, just follow me around while I walk into doors, while I step into restaurants and window shop, literally window shop, and just have conversations with myself. It'll be fun. Come along.
You are your own show.
I am my own show. I think that's where we should be.
Oh yeah, and it's a very entertaining show.
I like my show.
Yeah, it's awesome.
My show is good.
How about you?
How about you?
I think my life is like a Ben Stiller movie. only like I'm not
Meet the Parents, like
yeah,
Meet the
but like
Fockers.
yeah, but I'm not Ben Stiller, but it's as if like if life were Ben Stiller and like life just keeps like throwing you all these curveballs
Gotcha.
and like you just have to navigate all these things. Yeah, and then it's just chaos for 90% of the day, and then it resolves in a happy ending.
Okay.
Well, whether your life feels like an indie film or a blooper reel, our next guest knows exactly how to capture it beautifully. Up next, we're flipping the script and pulling someone from behind the camera into the spotlight.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Okay, now
Yeah.
let's get back to our movie.
Yeah.
Welcome back to The Scoop. You've seen her work, even if you haven't seen her face, because she's the creative mind behind the lens of this very show.
Absolutely. She's a multidisciplinary artist, visual storyteller, and videographer whose work blends bold color, intuitive style, and cinematic detail.
Ooh la la. She's also the founder of 14 Coats, a production company that helps brands and artists craft authentic, scroll-stopping visuals. From behind the camera to center stage, please welcome our very own Erin J. Coholan! Hello!
There you go.
Well, Erin, we do know you obviously as the director and videographer of The Scoop. You're the creative force behind the camera and all of our incredible social media posts. But how do you describe what you do and what led you to start 14 Coats?
It started with photography. That was like my main love, and like just always have been interested in visuals and arts. But then I kind of found myself doing more and more through just different jobs and organizations and gaining like different types of skills. I started to do graphic design. I started to work on video, do installation-based work in galleries. Like I just started feeling like there was so much going on. And with that, I was like, it was a really natural progression to where I am now, which is that like this needs to exist under one, umbrella organization, because I felt like there was so much that I wanted to offer, and I loved every little bit of the process, and especially of the production. And that's why I say it's a creative production company, because I always felt like just putting one, certain type of work like out there, I was only going to get those type of clients or those experiences. So I wanted it to be like, no, I want to be along for the entire ride, the entire creative process. I want to help with. And that's because I have such a deep love for it. But also because I think art and creativity is so much about curiosity. And I know the name is like quite random, nobody, so it's like, I think people were really like, what does that mean? What do you do? And I liked that because I didn't want it to be like
very concrete.
Very, it was a bit more abstract. And I was like, that starts the conversation. What is 14 coats rather than just, the simple fact of this is what I do. So I was under that like idea of like wearing many hats.
Do you actually have 14 coats? You probably have more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You change as a producer,
I love coats.
you wear this.
Yeah, I do.
I also love coats. And so your visual style is very, very bold and expressive. How do you come up with the vision for your creative photo shoots, and what kind of sparks your creative imagination for them?
Everything creative in the world informs my creativity, like watching movies, walking around, film, fashion, everything really. Like, so I've found if I have a community around me of creative people, I'm going to perform creatively, I think, quite a bit better. So just making my world really creative, really colorful, it informs what I do. And, people think they have to have an idea that's really hashed out and like fully formed before they go out and shoot or do whatever. And it's like, I don't think it has to be at that point of conceptualization where it's done or you understand why you're doing it. I have no idea like why I'm doing doing so many things. I think it's just like, I just experiment. And I think that's the number one best thing to do.
Yeah, and we've definitely collaborated before, so it's just this like really nice organic creative flow in the space. Have a little idea and take off running with it.
Like a shirt. We literally did a photo shoot just based on one shirt.
Like I have this shirt I want to shoot, and then we had an entire concept. Yeah, and then it got published too. Which is fascinating. Speaking of being published, your work has been featured in magazines and galleries, but you also shoot projects that feel really grassroots and community driven. What's your approach to visual storytelling that makes art and media feel more accessible to everyone?
Obviously, showing your work and being published, it's also fun. As artists, we want our work to be experienced, and that's amazing. But I always think back to like the beginning before you can even get to that stage. And to me, community-driven organizations such as the BMFA, when I first moved to Collingwood, that was my first intro. And it's always just had its door open for me, like these community spaces. And I feel like that's what's given me confidence and inspiration. And it's just like I reflect back on those, and like more than any other gallery or magazine or whatever cool experience that is, it's the community spaces have really like been the
catalyst and like
it's really I'm really passionate about that, and I really think that people should tap into that more, and just making arts accessible to especially young people. Like I think young people need encouragement. Like they're just so creative already before life comes at them, and it's just like maintaining that. I think I've really felt that through those community organizations, so I'm so interested in continuing that throughout my career and in my life, and just making sure that people feel heard and seen, and just tap into like resourcefulness when it comes to being an artist, because there's a lot of like gatekeeping around it, and it's a bit, it can have that intimidation factor in fine arts and film and media, like, but anyway, if you're even loosely interested, like do it and experiment and like tap into these community spaces that are going to encourage you, and find that encouragement like literally wherever, but definitely in those spaces. So the BMFA has been like a big help for me in that.
That's so beautiful.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for agreeing to step up in front of the camera for once. We need you to get back there and do your job. No, seriously.
And speaking of creative forces, we're about to meet someone who spent nearly 2 decades bringing arts programs to life across Ontario.
From theater to education to building cultural networks, she's been making major waves and has a front row seat to how the arts are evolving in our region.
Stick around, we'll be right back. Welcome back to The Scoop. It's time for our Let's Talk About It segment, where we shine a light on the conversations that matter most in our community.
We're diving into what it really takes to build a thriving arts scene. Because behind every gallery, performance, or program, there's someone making it all happen.
She's the Director of Operations at the Blue Mountain Foundation for the Arts, a nonprofit organization that promotes and encourages the arts in the Southern Georgian Bay region through exhibitions, events, and community programming. Please welcome Amber Ebert.
Hello.
All right, Amber. So I'm looking here and I feel like you've had such a rich and varied career in the arts.
Yes, I've been very lucky.
Yeah. So from performing and producing to program development, can you tell us a bit about your journey and what led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to work with arts organizations. As a kid, I was really drawn to theater and performance. And I had a really amazing teacher, of course, in high school, my theater teacher. And she was really linked to the professional theater community in Niagara, where I grew up. So really, really early on, I was able to do a co-op placement with local theater companies. And I loved performance, but that opportunity when I was 16 gave me a real insight about what it takes to run professional theater organizations. And so I went to university and studied performance, theater and performance, but I always had a mind, I don't really have the constitution to be a performer. I knew that. I was always really interested in community programs and education, working with kids specifically. But growing up in a really rural area, I think I always wanted to provide, or I was really interested in providing programming and making those connections about really valuing creativity wherever it's being created. You don't need to go to the big city centers, that the products and the pieces or the plays that you're creating anywhere has value. And how do we connect those small communities with the professional artists to be able to grow and create more? So I'm very lucky that I've always been able to align that kind of goal, or to deliver on that kind of goal with my work. So after university, I did a postgrad in cultural management, and then I started working with professional arts organizations in programming and outreach and more community development, but always sort of being that bridge between artists and the community. And how do we invite people in? How do we allow artists to be able to explain what they do or invite people into their process? So
Amazing. So the BMFA is often described as a cornerstone of the art scene in Southern Georgian Bay. But for people who might not know much about it, can you tell us why it's such an important part of the community and how it supports local artists?
Yeah, so the BMFA, we're gearing up to celebrate the 50th anniversary year of the organization. So starting in June. So for a community the size of Collingwood, and really in the South Georgian Bay region, there is a tremendous amount of artists, visual artists and musicians, and now in terms of media artists and film. So it really it has been sort of a magnet for the creative industries. The BMFA was started 50 years ago with a group of members of the community who wanted to bring more cultural enrichment into this area. So they founded the organization to support bringing up tours and children's theater and symphonies and musicians. They paid for a big band shell and did outdoor concerts. So it was really established as a multidisciplinary organization, so not specifically just visual arts. Over the lifetime of the organization, it has sort of shifted more to supporting visual artists. And that's really the nature. It transitioned to sort of like a more traditional foundation organization, where the foundation was fundraising money to disseminate out for performances or to support the development of other organizations, like the Blue Mountain School of Landscape Painting was originally supported through the BMFA Theatre Collingwood. The launch of Theatre Collingwood was supported. So it shifted more to a member-driven organization where the artists were the members that had specific involvement with the programming of the organization. And it really narrowed into being able to support the visual arts, support and promote visual artists in the area. I always joke that we have like a 50-year legacy that we're dragging behind us. But really, if you look at the history of the organization, the many iterations, the many sort of focuses that the organization has taken, it's really a product of it being a member-driven organization. But there has been some really sustaining programs like the Juried Art Show, which is currently up on exhibition at 65 Simcoe Street. This is the 45th annual year of the Juried Art Show. The Juried Photography Show, it started later, but it still has been around for about 35 years. And really, these shows are the place that young artists or emerging artists or people who are coming to art have the opportunity to get their work up on the wall and seen publicly for the first time.
I really enjoy those shows. I'm always here looking at them. So what do you think are the biggest opportunities or challenges facing, the local arts community here in Southern Georgian Bay right now?
I mean, we're in a transition time in terms of with all sort of arts organizations or not-for-profit organizations, really, with the state of the economy, with the change of volunteerism that hasn't really recovered out of coming out of COVID. We're really at a moment where we have to look at ourselves and say, what is our purpose? How are we serving the community? And how are we being forward thinking so that we're not necessarily just operating in a way that worked 15 years ago, that how are we preparing the organization? How are we really listening to our members? How are we reaching out to different community organizations to be able to work together to really serve the needs of the artistic community and the broader community in this region so that the organization is here for the next 50 years. I mean, funding is always a major issue, but with the growth of the community and the population in this area, that, how do we harness and welcome all of those new people that have moved into the region, and how do we ensure that they are aware of this organization as a resource, if they're creatively inclined or want to be able to participate as an artist, or how are they aware of this organization as a sort of a gateway into making connections with the cultural community. So lots of really big questions, and it's a really tricky time. So, but there's a lot of really great momentum with this organization right now.
One follow-up question. If someone wants to learn more about the BMFA, where can they get that information?
So you can connect with us through our website, which is www.bmfa.ca, or follow us on our Instagram, which is BMFA Foundation Arts, or you can just come into our shop. So we run a shop that's open Wednesday to Saturday weekly. It's all run by our volunteer members who have their work up in the shop. So it's a great way to connect with artists and with our members to learn about what's happening at the organization.
Amber, thank you so very, very much for joining us today and for giving us a deeper look into how the arts are being nurtured right here in our backyard.
Up next, we're turning our attention inward with a conversation about leadership, alignment, and how we show up in the world.
Whether you're leading a team, running a business, or just trying to lead your own life with more clarity, our next guest brings a powerful perspective you won't want to miss. We'll be right back.
Well, welcome back to The Scoop. Our next guest is here to talk about leadership, but not in the way you're probably used to hearing about it.
Instead of chasing performance and control, she's inviting people to lead with presence, purpose, and something called kokoro, the unity of heart, mind, and spirit.
She's the founder of Enso Mindset, a human-centered growth company blending Japanese philosophy with modern coaching science. Please welcome Anette Land. So, Annette, we've sort of touched on what you do, but I'd love to hear it in your words. What is the story behind Enso Mindset, and how did this all open up for you?
Yeah, well, it really goes back to my origins. So my mother is a Japanese living here in Canada, so Canadian Japanese, and I burnt out myself in working in HR, and so I chased titles. I chased identities of I'm a high performance swimmer, I was a sailor, I worked with Olympic athletes, and all these different levels. And I just thought chasing that next big thing was really it. I had heard a quote from Oprah that talked about the first 40 years of your life, you're building up what you think you should do. And then the next 40 years, you're breaking it down on what you know you should do. And it was in that knowing that I really dove into feeling I needed to do something for myself. And the one question that really happened was I started working with an executive coach as director of people and culture. And he had asked the question, who are you? And I was like, well, I'm the director of people and culture, like all these external answers. And he was like, well, that's what you do, but who are you? And that was really that catalyst that just cracked the pot. It's about the same time that I started to get these like heart flutters. And I went to doctors and I got all the tests done and they're like, oh, you're fine. You know, my mom was like, oh, you just need to exercise more. You just need to lay off the coffee. And I knew it was something deeper than that. And so I started journaling and I became a mad scientist of my own behavior in a sort of way. And I mean, seeking out coaches and therapists to really understand what I had searched for externally my entire life. Then it really took me going inward to understand my own feeling of not belonging.
Wow.
When I started journaling, I started to have these dreams, and these dreams were of my Japanese grandfather, I call him Ji-chan, painting the Enso circle. And it was then, I didn't make sense of it then, but I had this deep knowing that I wanted to be entrepreneurial myself. I knew I wanted to do my own path, and that's when the Enso Mindset was really born.
So you work with leaders, with all kinds of leaders, from founders to execs and HR teams. But once someone starts working with you, like what tends to shift for them? What happens?
So what I love about the Japanese language is that starting with kokoro, so I brought the kanji here. So the language itself is embodied with the human spirit, and it's very visual. Unlike English, it's somewhat flat. Now I have to make sure that I don't cheapen the language like my mom does, of like really bringing the spirit back to what the kanji has. So one of the first pillars of the Enso Mindset is kokoro. And when you learn Japanese, they always have an image that is reflecting how it was designed. So there's another image I'll show you that is the picture of the heart and the actual heart and the arteries that go through. But it is heart, mind, and spirit. Where in English, it's just your heart, right? Love is another word. And so that was the first one that I really stuck with, of kokoro, of leading with heart. And feeling into your leadership of what feels right instead of these frameworks that we memorize and we think we need to do. The second one that I'm going to show, which goes directly into your answer, of the space to be able to have the pause. And what I loved about this kanji, which is ma, and in Japanese it shows like a gate, and then the center image is actually the sun.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So in Japanese, it's the space between. And what I encourage leaders to do, of like remembering this kanji, of when you show up, of just pausing. And when you pause, you bring yourself out of reaction and into more of like intentional, how am I going to show up? And I loved this one is like you pause at the gate to let the light in. of remembering like the purpose and the reasons of what your heart's really calling for. And I think what we see is that a lot of our leadership right now, we're experiencing burnout. Our heart's not in it sometimes. And I mean, have any of you got to a point in your life in a career where you're like, I don't feel my heart's in it anymore?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what was it that took for you to take that pause to then realize what sparked your own unique story that then allowed your whole self to show up?
I know with me, when I used to work like office jobs and everything, I used to always be thinking there's something else I could be doing, because I never really felt like I was fully meant to do this. And would always be thinking about, oh, what else can I do? What are my other passions that I know that I can do that will actually make me happy, honestly. And when I just made that decision to just switch, I just never looked back.
Yeah, right. And you feel a little bit whole.
So much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
And I think so much in our organizations now, we're leaving our souls behind. We're like, okay, I'll bring my body to work and here, but it's because we want to protect of what we're working in stress, we're reacting, and being in HR, you hear it all the time, firefighting, that's not, it's not sustainable. I think of leadership as each person has a tree. And that's what my book really dove into. And when you think of yourself as a tree, and let's say for me, I was in a pot that I no longer fit in, right? And the first root that cracked that pot and came out was the root of curiosity. And to get curious about your unique story, and with everybody's unique story, then what do you want to do with that unique story? What do you have to get rid of the I should be doing this versus I know I want to do this, and what needs to shift in that? And seeking out someone that you trust, whether it's a coach, a therapist, a best friend that can hold space for you. And that's why I say of that gate of holding that space for you that can let the light in. So that you can explore and talk about where your heart actually still is, right? What I write in my book is when you talk about it with a friend or a coach or a therapist, your roots get a little bit deeper, right? By saying it out loud. And your friend helps nourish those roots. Your tears help nourish those roots, right? Of letting out whatever is lying within you. I didn't like hearing hard skills and soft skills, right? And everybody they somewhat value hard skills more than we do the soft skills. And then I had that aha moment, and I have a fun little way to think about the aha moment, but roots are softer than the branches. The tree can't survive without the roots, and branches can break off. And I thought, oh, that's like hard skills and soft skills. And so when you think of your roots, they're your values, they're your soft skills, self-awareness, perspective.
I'm picturing the roots like sucking in all of the nutrients and all the stuff that fuels you, and then so that you can go.
And then when your branches are nice and strong, they can bear fruit. And it's your fruit that you then give away as wisdom because now you've learned that.
Annette, thank you for sharing so much insight, and we're not done yet. After the break, she's going to walk us through a real-life example using her technique.
It's all about how we show up, even when things get tough. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to The Scoop. We're here with Annette Land, founder of Enso Mindset, and now she's going to take us a little deeper into her process.
We've been talking about heart-centered leadership and alignment, and now Annette is going to walk us through a real-life example using the Enso Mindset framework.
Annette, we'll turn it over to you.
Great, excellent. Well, thank you. My little model here is the Enso infinity growth model. And the string represents your life, which gets a little messy sometimes. And when we don't really have a method in how we're showing up and how we're operating, it can look like this and not really messy. And so sometimes we have to take it and we have to go, I need this unraveling. We go to a friend, we go to a coach or a therapist just to help us untangle the rope. What is going on, whether it's childhood, internal, external, all these different things. So it then allows us to really see that the infinity growth model, we have our internal world and we have our external world. And there's a Japanese term, shu, ha, and ri, that we'll go through. And I believe you have an example that we can kind of talk through and walk through.
About a year and a half ago, I started to feel like the job that I was working, which used to be my dream job, and it was so inspiring. I felt like I was in a hamster wheel. So that sounds familiar with the cycling. But I was talking myself out of it because I was extremely grateful to be working. I was extremely grateful to be, doing what I was doing and loving what I was doing. But I wasn't being true to 100% what I wanted and what I was passionate about. And I found myself just sitting on the couch a lot and working. But I didn't move on it for quite some time. And I talked it through with my kids. And, it was the security of salary position with benefits. And I'm dumb to walk away from that. That's what I keep telling myself, right? I have a mortgage, I have kids, I have a family, I have responsibilities. Long story short, my father passed away over Christmas. And when I got back, I was just in a place where I couldn't make a good decision. And so I told my company, and they were so wonderful and so understanding. And I basically told them where I was at, and I made them break up with me because I chickened out. But I had to make that scary, scary decision to leave that into the unknown, the absolute unknown. And so through that process, I then was scrambling a little bit to figure out, well, no, not so much, just sort of like pensively wondering what to do with a little bit of panic associated with it. But then,
Normal.
But then we brought all of us together, and honestly, we started this talk show. And this was sort of like, it all feels like this was the path that now I'm meant to go on. And I don't know where it's going to go. And a year from now, I don't know where we're going to be. But you go ahead and psychoanalyze me.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but that is a perfect example of where we are and realizing with this model of where you are in the phase, right? And so what I hear from you is that you were on that hamster wheel. You were cycling around it, trying to find there's something that you feel deep inside but couldn't quite articulate. And it was with your connection with friends, have the courage to talk to your boss that something wasn't right. And this is the ha phase, actually. And the ha phase is that you're experimenting and talking and putting your feelers out. And with that humility and with that vulnerability that you went through the ha phase, ha, ha, ha. But ha, ha, ha in the sense of like, I haven't found it yet. And then you found your aha moment. And what I hear your aha moment was connecting with those who in your space felt like where your heart wanted to be, right? And so in the center, your heart is in the center, right? And how do you bring yourself back to what your heart is calling and what your spirit is calling for? So then you took that aha moment and now you're into your external world, right? And now you're experimenting with what this show is and what it can do, the ha 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 phase, which you don't really know what it's going to do yet.
Oh, so you can have a ha 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 after your aha. Oh, you can go back in the ha ha's within your external. Oh.
So now that you're back in the ha 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 phase in your external world, now I found it. Now I brought it out into
That
the
one seems a
world.
little more like
Yeah.
That was more like a ha ha phase. And then you'll find another aha of like, oh, that was the purpose of the show. And in Japanese, if you've ever heard the word ikigai,
the three.
it is, and our Western culture is looking at it as like finding your purpose, because English really is like find your purpose. Or Japanese is more feel your way into your purpose, right? And so you're now finding like, where does this go? I don't know, but it feels right.
Right.
And that's where you then go into that infinity growth model. And then you go back onto the other side of something else of like seek the masters who you want to follow.
Yeah.
Right? And this is ongoing. And sometimes it's going to get really messy, right? And that's okay. And it's giving yourself grace and that pause to go, that's okay. Life's not linear. It's going to get messy. The Enso circle in an artist will paint it in one breath, and it represents the Zen philosophy of impermanence and imperfection and finding the flow in life rather than forcing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow, that was such a powerful way to look at things. Thank you, Anette, so much for guiding us through that and making us feel a little bit more grounded and maybe even a little bit cracked open.
Absolutely. We're going to take a quick break to sit with that, but don't go anywhere. Annette's sticking around to find out how well heart, mind, and spirit hold up. In Disney movie trivia, we'll be right back.
What? No.
This woman and her game. Welcome back to The Scoop. Before the break, we had a thoughtful conversation with Annette Lang, who reminded us that leadership isn't about knowing everything. It's about tuning in, showing up, and trusting your gut. But now we're putting on a different kind of instinct to the test.
We're shifting from inner wisdom to animated wisdom.
That's right. We're playing a trivia game, and it's called What's the Disney Catchphrase? So,
Okay.
here's how it works. I'm going to give you a prompt for a famous Disney or Pixar quote. If you know the answer, you're going to use these magic wands.
Woo!
Use your magic wand. Oh, you hold the spoon part. There you go.
Okay.
Didn't have
Beepity
enough control.
boopity boop.
You're going to use it, and you're going to hit the gong.
Oh,
Okay?
there's a
I'm just going to hold it
Okay.
like this.
Can I test it?
Yep. And whoever I know, but it looks better when you've got the
It's not the other side.
Okay, we're gonna try a warm-up one. Okay,
Okay.
so you have to ding before yelling out your answer.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
We'll just have chaos. In the movie Frozen, what is Elsa's famous line?
Let it go.
Yes. Right? We
Frozen.
That was
Very much.
That was supposed to be the easy one.
Yeah.
In the movie Toy Story, okay, we're in that world.
Yeah,
Toy Story. Here we go. What is Buzz Lightyear's most iconic catchphrase?
To infinity and beyond.
Oh!
I'm a 6-year-old. I should have been quicker at that.
Yeah, Janene wins.
She is wearing green, so I feel like, it's giving her Buzz Lightyear.
All right, here we go. In Finding Nemo, what is Dory's go-to saying when things get tough? Janene again.
Just keep swimming.
Yeah! I thought with your frozen face for a second you weren't going to get that.
I'm still frozen.
Yeah.
In the movie The Lion King,
Okay.
what motto do Timon and Pumbaa? Ooh!
Got it.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like, no, it's my favorite.
Okay.
One.
In the movie Mary Poppins,
Oh.
what is the famous word she uses when there's nothing else left to say?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. And last but not least, in the movie Snow White, what does the evil queen say to her magic mirror?
Get it, girls.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
Well, well done, ladies. I do think, Janene, you took the cake there, though.
Yeah. Wow. Unexpected.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Golden Girls questionnaire, but it's great.
Yeah.
Put this back
I
in
don't
the
think
ground.
Well, Annette, thank you so very much for being a good sport and showing us when heart, mind, and spirit come together, the self-reflection is something even the evil queen's mirror can't deny.
And while this fairy tale doesn't end with one of us becoming a princess, I think it's safe to say our story is just beginning. Next week, we'll be back with a little creative movement and a visit to a local spot that celebrates life's simple luxuries.
A huge thank you to our guests, Erin Coholan, Ebert, and Anette Land for sharing your creativity, purpose, and perspective with us today.
Certainly. So, what's the scoop, Georgian Bay? You tell us.
If you've got an event story or a local business we should know about, pop us off an email or drop a comment below. We'd love to feature you.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye!